Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the Xbox One X and see how the specific, device still holds up in 2023. Now, I will definitely tell you one of the most important things I've kind of said in my life was back in 2020. Now, it wasn't a historical thing. It was just something that I honestly saw a lot of other people saying. And it was basically when the Xbox Series X, the S, and the PlayStation 5s came out, I said to myself that Xbox One X is just such a powerful console still that even for years and years, and probably for the complete duration of the Xbox Series X lineup, I'm pretty sure that the Xbox One X is still going to have games developed for it, and I still think a ton of people are going to be using this console. And even 3 years later almost, in this day and age, there's still so many people who love this console, and there's still a humongous community behind this console, and rightfully so. It is a beautiful device, it's very powerful, and honestly, even if you still own one of these consoles, you are in good hands. I still think this is a very capable machine, and if you want to pick this console up, or if you want to pick some of the newer ones up, links will be down in the description. You can get this console from Amazon, link down below, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off, you have to remember how this Xbox even kind of came out. So this console came out in 2017, so it's been over 5 years. It's going to be 6 years old this year. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head, that this console came out back in 2017, and at that moment, it was a very, very powerful console. Personally, for me, my favorite Xbox probably of all time, beyond the 360, was probably the Xbox One S. That Xbox One S was a very good console, and I love that console a lot. But right now with the Xbox, One X, this console it's just crazy how powerful this console is right now. So for one, the exterior of the outside, it really wasn't that big of a difference coming from pretty much the previous generation of, Xboxes. It looked pretty much the same, which was totally okay. Really wasn't that big of a deal. It had a little bit of a change, like I said, with the Xbox One S to the One X. But I think for the most part, if you looked at the Xbox One X, you'd probably think it looked kind of similar to the One S, which is not a problem at all. I think that console personally looked very, very good. Now, on top of that, with the Xbox, One X looking forward, I think it honestly held up very well in that build standpoint compared to the, Xbox Series X and the S. The one thing with the One X that I kind of talked about in my review of the One X versus the Series S was actually the disc tray. I liked how this console had that disc tray left within it. Fortunately, the Series S kind of removed it, which was kind of weird, but I do understand where they were coming from. But I really do like how this console actually ended up keeping that disc tray, even for later generations. There was that One S model that did have that disc tray removed. This one just had that disc tray inside of it, which was really cool. Now on the front, you did have that USB port, which was great. So you can go ahead and connect a controller if you want to right next to that power button, which was awesome. And on the back of this console, it was pretty minimalistic as well. Like, it didn't have like a crazy amount of stuff going for it. So you had that AC adapter on the left side. You had 2 HDMI ports, which I want to pause right there. A lot of people have been stating, like, what was the point of having 2 USB type, A ports? And I said this before and I'll say it again. The main thing that was going crazy with these specific ports is that you can actually go ahead and have a pass-through port. Just think about it as like a pass-through port. If you wanted to go ahead and have your Nintendo Switch, I've heard this said a lot. If you had a Nintendo Switch, and if that specific, console wanted to go ahead and pair up with your specific device, well, instead of plugging into 2 different HDMI ports on your, TV, you could just plug into 2 different HDMI ports on that specific console, and you'd actually be able to basically get the same type of experience. And all you had to do is just kind of, input that inside of your One X if you wanted to switch between them, and that was it. Like, it was really that cool of a feature. Unfortunately, they did remove it on the latest Xboxes, but this was pretty much one of the last Xboxes to have that feature, which was amazing. So personally, that was something that was really, really cool. And when Microsoft did that here, I haven't really seen too many other manufacturers actually bring that type of feature. Now, the remainder of the ports kind of got carried away. We had that other 2 USB type A ports, which was awesome. So that was great. You had an Ethernet port in these consoles too. And overall, it was a crazy good console. That was something that I really did like. When Microsoft made these consoles, it was amazing. And the power behind this console, the way it came out, was really, really cool. Now, this console did come out 3 years before the Xbox Series X and S, and it was the more expensive console of that time. Now, their selling price was $499. So just keep that in the back of your head, $499. It was definitely an expensive console. It wasn't supposed to be cheap, but again, I think it's kind of understandable. When you think about it in this day and age, when you're getting like that latest generation of consoles, you do have to keep in mind that it is going to be a little bit more expensive to buy those consoles, considering the Xbox One S was supposed to be more of that cheaper console. So personally for me, that kind of made a lot of sense there. Now the other side, like the complete other side of this console, is that the used price of these consoles have gone down quite a bit as well. So they did kind of go up slightly, I think last year or the year before, when the consoles, craze was going on and a lot of people weren't able to get their consoles. Now it's gotten a little bit easier. So now these older One X series have gotten a little bit cheaper, which is really nice. But you have to remember that with that Xbox One X, I mean, for a long period of time, people were still keeping this console, and rightfully so. Even now, you should still consider buying it. Now, I would still say the power behind this console is right up there. Like, it is still a very powerful console for the most part. So at that time, and even now, it still has that 2.3 gigahertz octa-core CPU. It has that Radeon GPU. It has 12 gigabytes of RAM, which is amazing. Like, you have to keep in mind, like, a lot of consoles nowadays still, can't probably beat this console. But for the size of this console and for how beautiful it looked, I mean, this console really was a pretty big improvement, I would say, coming from the few previous generation of Xboxes. Now, I do want to state one thing. There's still some games coming out for this console, which is amazing. But let's just say, which is not the case, but let's just say, for hypothetical, that no more games were coming out for this thing and this console's done or whatever. This console still had a very long lifespan. Like, this thing still has a massive array of games that you can choose from, like, from so many different games. I mean, there's just so many different games you can choose from. So even beyond the games that Microsoft made and that are, cross-platform, all those online games that still a ton of people are playing, you have that capability of using them on this specific, console. So all those games, you named them, that's available here. And a lot of them are free as well, or like free to play. A lot of those online games are still available for these consoles. And the way it's been going, I feel like Microsoft has been making massive improvements in their Xbox lineup in general. And even with Xbox Remote Play, you can now play your Xbox games beyond than just being at your house. So that's another really big thing that Microsoft ended up bringing here. And when it comes down to it, when I look at the Xbox One X, I'm a massive fan of this console. I think, I didn't really grow up playing Xboxes, for the most part. It was mostly Nintendo, but I've always been so happy with the way Microsoft approached their Xbox One lineup. And I feel like that complete lineup, the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4s, maybe the Wii U, Nintendo Switch in there too. I guess I don't know where the Switch kind of lines up there, but with those two consoles, the PS4 and the Xbox One, I feel like that was a very good lineup for Microsoft and for Sony. Now with the Xbox Series X and with the PlayStation 5, I love Xboxes, I love PlayStations. I might like the design of the PlayStation 5 a little bit more, but during this moment, I did actually like Xboxes maybe a little bit more than PlayStation 4s. I feel like the One S looked beautiful, my favorite console of all time, but the Xbox One X was probably the one that kind of brought everything together. It had a bunch of power, had a bunch of just resources inside of it. But even now, about 6 years later, this console isn't that expensive. Like, you can buy them quite a bit all over the place on eBay. And I feel like now that the Xbox Series S's are kind of available a little bit more than they used to be, it might make a little bit more sense to go and buy that console over this one. But as I said before, when I look at something like the Xbox Series S, like, that's a great console. I like that console a lot. But the One X, for the power that console had inside of it, and the fact that it's a little bit cheaper now compared to the Series S, like I'm seeing some around $200 for the One X, it is a very powerful console that has a bunch of power within it, and I would still recommend buying it. But if you want to get a little bit more of a newer, modern system, the Xbox Series S might be the better way to go if you want to save some more money. If you have all the money, then go for the Series X. It can do everything this console can. But if not, I think the One X still has quite a bit of power inside of it. So that pretty much covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, then let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.